Chessy Prout was 15 and a freshman at an elite boarding school when something terrible happened. She was sexually assaulted by another student, a senior, who was ultimately convicted of sex assault but acquitted of her rape. The trial became national news, and when her name was made public, not by her choice, she was threatened, flooded with hate messages, and endured death threats. She is 19 now, and she is here sharing her story of survival in her memoir titled, I Have the Right To. And she joins us now on Better Kansas City to talk about how we can all be supportive of survivors and help them tell their stories and heal. And Chessy, you're also giving courage and support to so many girls who are in the shoes that you were in 3 to 4 years ago.
I hope so.
Thank you for coming here to share your story.
Thank you for having me and giving light to this issue.
This is such a horrific thing that happened to you. You titled your book, I Have the Right To. Why'd you pick that title?
Well, I Have the Right To is the name of the social media movement that I decided to bring with me when I decided to shed my anonymity publicly on the Today Show. And it came about by my little sister. When we were watching a documentary on the civil rights movement, she said, when is it going to be time for girls' rights? And of course, there's so much more to do in the civil rights movement, but women are left out of a lot of these movements. And so I Have the Right To was out there to help empower other people to claim their rights.
And you say that you're reclaiming your voice and your story by writing this book and sharing it on your terms. Because when you testified in court, your face was blurred out, no one ever said your name, and yet at 15, your name was leaked out and you endured some horrific assaults online. How does a 15-year-old girl who's just survived an assault deal with that? How did you process that?
Well, I was 16 years old by the time of my trial. It was the beginning of my junior year of high school. And it's a common tactic used by defense attorneys in these cases to use the victim's name as much as possible in his statements so that our name can be leaked out. And so I did not.
And why would they do that?
It's just a part of their victim-blaming tactics. I mean, there's a set playbook for perpetrators and how to defend them, how to shame the victim into silence. But there's nothing that tells a victim and their family what to do and how to survive this. And so I feel extremely lucky that I had my family to support me and that we were strong enough to get through this together. And so we're going to be working forward in the future to help make families able to go through the criminal justice system without being pounded down.
The sex assault took place during a senior tradition. It was unveiled in court called the Senior Salute, in which these boys, they're not boys, they're men, get the students and the girls that they've always wanted, and they victimize them. And it's kind of a notch in their belt. One of the other layers of this book, though, tackles, and this was just so, I thought, remarkable, was how, Chessy, your friends, or people you thought were your friends at school, didn't believe you and blamed you. And you have texts and emails you got, and one of them was from a girl you were friends with. It said, I just love you both, and I know he hurt you, but maybe you didn't necessarily hate what he was doing at the time. How on earth do people who are going through this handle stuff like that? That's awful.
That text came from the boy who, excuse me, sorry, pressured me into going into this situation in the first place after I said no. So, I mean, I think people would choose to believe that a girl is capable of lying rather than a boy is capable of committing something so heinous. And I think with more and more survivors using their voices, telling their stories, it'll help people realize that this is happening to a wide volume and array of people, men and women. And it's time that we believe survivors and support them in what they're doing.
You went back to school, another hugely brave thing. You were not expecting to be ostracized, and you were not expecting to not be supported by your school, which is the feeling that you have, is that your school didn't support you.
Absolutely.
What happened when you went back to school?
Well, I had gotten such a great response from my mission trip team that summer, a couple weeks after my assault, really. And so I thought that my school would be supportive. They were supportive. I outlined how they were supportive in the fall of my freshman year after I went home for a little bit on a health leave. And I was expecting them to help me then, too. But I think they realized that I wasn't weak or helpless in this situation. I was ready to fight, and I wanted to fight this, and they went into protection mode.
And they're still in, what mode do you think your former school is in now?
I think absolute denial, and I don't think any real change can happen there unless they acknowledge their past, acknowledge their issues, and come to terms with them.
You're featured in People magazine. You've been on national stories. You are continuing to get support, and you said to me before we came on for this live interview that you're also getting lots of letters and calls from girls, even strangers sometimes, who have also been attacked, and they're looking to you for help. What do you do?
Well, I, of course, remind everybody who's either my age in the advocacy field or people who reach out to me that I'm not a trained victims advocate. I'm not a trained therapist. I can't help people in ways that I really want to help them yet. And so what I do is offer support, belief, sympathy, kindness, and offer them an array of resources that are all over the internet that we can find, but it's just so hard sometimes to search for support for rape victims because it's hard to even own up to it, to be able to say that.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where's Chessy Prout at 29?
Well, if this last 5 or 6 years has taught me anything, it's that I cannot look and predict into the future and make plans, otherwise they will be changed. And so I'm just looking forward to starting college next year and learning how best I can serve the world and the people around me.
Well, you're already making a huge difference by sharing your story, and there are girls watching right now who may be victims of an assault who will be inspired to tell someone just by seeing you. Chessy, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Chessy presents her book tonight at an open house. The Rainy Day Books event is at 7 o'clock at Unity Temple on the Plaza. A book signing will follow the presentation. People magazine is owned by the Meredith Corporation, which also owns KCTV5.